So, Marky, here's kind of what we're thinking for today's episode, right? We're going to talk all things New York Jets quarterbacks. So, that could be Deshaun, right? That could be talking about Sam. That could be talking about potential drafts. Like the potential draft guys coming in. And I think it's far-fetched, but I guess we could just throw the name Russell Wilson in there for a second. Yeah. I don't think that's happening, but we could throw his name in there. So why don't you kick us off here? I guess we should probably start with the superstar, right?
Okay. All right. Actually, before we dive into that, before we get into the nitty gritty, what is your preferred? So we said there's three options: make the trade for Watson, roll with Sam, or take a rookie QB. So what is your preferred order, I guess, for those three scenarios?
Deshaun, Sam, draft. So Deshaun, Sam, Fields, Wilson.
Okay.
And then Trey Lance is not even a thought.
I'm definitely different than you, but I'm very torn on giving up a boatload of capital for Watson or just drafting the QB. I'll say Watson at the right price. I'm still willing to overpay, but that's my number one. Two is the draft either QB, Fields or Wilson. And then my fourth option would be to stick with Sam. Not a horrible, scenario, because you have a lot of good teams that are sniffing around for Sam Darnold. So if that's the case, so be it. But that is my last option.
Sam.
Yes.
Well, I'll get into my take on Sam. And I just want to let you know, I know you have some notes here for us. I'm going strictly off the cuff here. Everything for me is going to be gut reaction, on how I feel about all this. So I think we want to start with Watson. Did you make some like mock trades for Watson? And you're going to run them by me?
It's a little bit of a mix. In
case you guys can't tell, I make Marky do all the work.
Yeah. So no, but I honestly do feel like those off the cuff episodes tend to be the best episodes, right? Where you're just speaking off of emotion. So what I prepared a little bit here is, so Houston has a main beat writer, right? John McClain. And a lot of people believe he's the mouthpiece of the Texans organization. Like what they want leaked out there is what McClain is kind of tweeting. So in the very beginning, it was like,
John McClain from Die Hard.
He's like, I have a better chance of being hired as the Texans.
I'm sorry, I'm cutting you off. Go ahead.
No, he basically said he believed in the beginning in January that there was a better chance he got hired as the head coach than the Texans trading Watson. And then his tune started to slowly change, which many people believe might be an indication of the Texans' feelings, but who knows? So the very first
I guess before you even get into that, do you think in your heart of hearts there's any way that Deshaun opts out of the season if they do not trade him?
I think he might sit out. I don't know if it's the whole year, but I think what is that week 10 you need to come back by? I could see him sitting out that long.
I don't think so. I think he'd have to kind of suck it up and go play.
But I will say,
it would be like a divorce, essentially. Yeah. It would be like, or a separation, and you're just kind of living in the same house, right? I don't think it would be beneficial for either. So I think they should get rid of him, send him to us, but continue.
But my gut is, in my heart of hearts, I do not see us trading for him. I just don't think that's Joe Douglas's style. I think he's going to rebuild naturally, whether it's, capitalizing on those draft picks we might get from trading down if we keep Sam, or just taking the QB. I'd be thrilled if we get him, but let's get into it. So basically the first talk of any idea of what a package might look like that John McClain released, he said it would start with 2 first-round draft picks, so number 2 and 23 this year, 2 second-round picks, 1 this year, 1 next, and then 2 defensive starters, including Quinnen Williams. So say Quinnen Williams and we'll say Ashton Davis. So I'll repeat the package. Tell me your take on this. It would be number 2 this year, number 23 this year, our second this year, our second next year, and then Quinnen Williams and Ashton Davis.
And that's came out already? That would be
that was like that. No, that was like in early, in like, let's say
that's too much.
Yeah. So
that's way too much. I think I would go the 2 firsts and Ashton Davis.
Definitely.
I don't think you go the 2. I would go the 2 firsts and then the second next year in Ashton Davis. I think could work. I don't think you get rid of Quinnen. Like, I don't think you can.
I mean, he was the third pick in third. He was the third pick in the draft.
Well, if you're getting rid of Quinnen, I would never give away both first picks for this.
Yeah. So I'm with you on this. This one's a no for me for sure.
Well, I see. I'm going off the cuff. I didn't know this. Like that was the proposal, or the one at least that you looked up. Quinnen's too much. Quinnen's too much of a monster, I think, to give up. Oh man.
I think what a lot of
I really like Deshaun though.
I do too, but I think what a lot of people don't realize is that number 2 overall pick is worth multiple firsts because like say a team wants to come up to number 2, they're going to give us multiple first round picks to do so. You know what I mean?
The tone, I guess, changes then for me. It's just too much because if you have to give all of that away, you're in a worse spot than you were this year, I think. Because,
and you're basically the Texans of last year.
Yeah, because you have a stud in Deshaun, but what do you have around him? Like what are you building with? So dang, I don't know. Can I switch my order up?
Well, that's just one proposal. That one is.
All right, give me another proposal. So that proposal, I'm saying no.
Yeah, that one's too rich for my blood as well. All right, so then McClain kind of started leaking.
Also, I can't get over this. John McClain is his name. Like, it's just die hard.
So McClain, then this is like 3 or 4 days ago. So this one is way more recent. This is the one that now he's saying this is the ballpark. 3 first-round picks. So both this year, 1 next year. So our pick next year, not Seattle's.
Okay.
Our second-round pick next year, I think. He just said 1 second. I'm assuming it's next year. Sam Darnold, and then he said perhaps Quinnen Williams. So 3 1s, a 2, Sam and Quinnen. I mean, if I said no to that one.
Keep one of the ones from this year. I would do that trade if it was the 23rd overall pick, next year's first round, and Sam Darnold. I would do that pick. I'm not throwing Quinnen in. And I'm not,
there's no way they're doing that then.
Well, that's what I would make it then. Like, I think it's just too tall of an order, I think. Like,
yeah, based on those parameters.
And how many years is left on his contract with the Texans?
I think like 4 or 5.
Oh, yeah. So they're going to get their money's worth.
Yeah. So, and he actually has a really cap-friendly deal, I think, this year and maybe even next. So, like, you could get an Allen Robinson to pair with him. But that one, if I'm saying no to the first one, I'm definitely saying no to that one, right? Because it's 3 firsts, not 2. And you're giving up, I mean, like, Sam, I guess, wouldn't matter, right, in the grand scheme of it because you're getting Watson. But it just Quinnen in that number 2 pick, it's just too much. It's too much. All right, so then this is the most I would go. So I want to hear your take on this. I would offer.
I'm just going to probably say yes off the jump, but go ahead.
I would give up number 2 this year.
23.
Number 23 this year. 2022 Seattle next year, and a second next year.
Oh, that's yeah. Oh my God!
Like, but that's 3 1s and a 2.
He's worth that.
Yeah, I mean that's a lot, but I would do it.
I would 100% do that one.
All right, would you do 22? I mean, I'm sorry, 2, 23, 34 this year, and our first next year, not Seattle. So it's still 3 1s and a 2, but it's a lot higher, more valuable picks.
You said 2, 23, and what?
2, 20. Yeah, 34 is our second round pick this year, which is basically a first. And then instead of Seattle's pick next year, it's our pick. So you're giving up 3 firsts and a second, but they're all super valuable.
Yeah.
I think that's, even though I said that was my limit, I think that's my absolute limit, but I would still pull the trigger.
I don't know. Because then, like you said, I would do it, but I'm not the general manager of the New York Jets. I don't think Douglas will do that. I don't think he's trying.
I don't think so either.
Like, because look, knock on wood, you're 1 injury away from like derailing your franchise with that.
Yeah.
Like you never want to wish injury upon, and obviously I'm not, but like knock on wood, you're 1 injury, Deshaun blowing out his ACL, and then you're setting yourself back. How many years?
Yeah. I mean,
I
mean, he would be back, but I know what you mean. My thing is,
but you know what I'm saying? Like then next year would be a wash. Then he's doing rehab. Like, look, gosh dang, I don't know.
I would do that one just because this. Even though
I just want can't we just have him?
He gives you
Sam
legitimacy.
Darnold 1 for 1.
Yeah. So you would still be able to trade Sam for a second separate of that deal. So you'd recoup a second. You'd have no first this year. You'd have a random second for Sam. And then you have your normal draft. And then next year you do have Seattle's 1. You have your 2. You know what I mean? Like, so you do still have some picks. The Jets have a ton of picks. So like we could weather the storm here, but I just don't see Joe going that route. And then here's the last mock-up I made. This one, I think I'm
sure Joe made an offer that he's sticking to.
Yeah. This one's pretty similar. This is just 2-23, Seattle's 1 next year, and Sam Darnold. I think that's a no-brainer.
Yeah, do that.
All right. So I think we're kind of in agreement here with Watson. Like, we want him bad, and like he would change our franchise, but it has to be at the right price.
But it has to also change our franchise in a way that we're putting him in a position to succeed. If we just get a good quarterback and we don't build around him, what is the good in that? Like, we're not setting ourselves up for success. So I think if we get like the haul in those first 2 or 3 options,
it was just too much.
Too much. Even me, and I am like, the ultimate optimist when it comes to the Jets. That's just too much to overcome, I think.
I agree with you. At the right price, I'm all in as Watson as my first choice. But we got to make sure it's a deal that doesn't cripple us, for the foreseeable future. All right, so that leads us to the next option, which I don't know if I'm going to say if this is the most conservative option just because of money down the line. But option 2, behind door number 2, is keeping Sam Darnold. So I just want to know your overall take on this, and then I have some pros and cons that I want to go through. I'm sure they're going to overlap a little bit. So let's hear your take on keeping Sam Darnold.
First of all, I love Sam. I'm 100% okay with keeping Sam Darnold. He's going into year 4. He's cheap, right? He's still on that rookie contract. He's got the 5th-year option coming up. If they want to ride with Sam Darnold, I'm perfectly okay with that. I think he has had the rawest deal in his first 3 years in the league. I don't think we haven't put him in a single, just like I was mentioning with Watson, where they hadn't put him in a position to succeed over his first 3 years. Our line has been relatively trash for 3 years. I think our receivers, like Jamison Crowder, like they did okay this year, but like, you're not putting him in a spot to succeed. Our tight ends did nothing this year. Our run game was, pretty inconsistent throughout his whole tenure here. He got the mono set him back for sure. I know it's like hard to say like, oh, I would like to see Sam because it's coming up on year 4, right? He's had three.
I know.
It's hard to say that, but I genuinely believe that he is going to take a step forward and be a good quarterback. I don't think he has been, we haven't put him in the position to succeed. And it's almost not fair. And it almost leaves a bad stigma about coming to New York as a quarterback. Like, oh, you go, like quarterbacks kind of get ruined when they come to us, which I don't think will be the case with the new regime. I am 1,000,000 infinity% okay with Sam Darnold being my quarterback. I love Sam Darnold. I think he's an awesome character person.
He's a great kid.
And if you like go in and cram tape, yes, he makes some stupid plays. He does. But he makes some incredible plays too with not much around him. Like, when's the last time he's had like a clean pocket, with a real number 1 to throw to? Like, we talk about all these unbelievable, like, all right, I am in no way, shape, or form comparing Sam Darnold to Patrick Mahomes in my next analogy, but here we go. Like, Patrick Mahomes is this unbelievable quarterback. He's a generational talent. But also look at the weapons that he has to throw to week in and week out, right? Like, yes, his stats are like, look, he's 100%. He's better than Sam. I'm not comparing the two of them. But what I'm saying is he has weapons. Like, Sam hasn't had the weapons. So I think if you don't go with this crazy haul, you draft somebody for him, get some people in free agency, which I know you've been following. I think you could put him in a position to succeed, and we need to just bulk up the line. You got backed in. We need to get 1 or 2 more guys on that O-line that is really going to protect him. And I think we need to find our running back of the future, whether it's going to be P. Ryan, Josh Adams. Didn't we just re-sign him?
Not yet.
But we're gonna. I would assume
maybe.
And then
I think Ty Johnson's still around for sure.
Ty Johnson. I'm seeing ETN's name being thrown around in the draft. Like, I think if we get our running back of the future, we get a legit number 1. Then you still have Crowder. You have your 2s, your 3s. You get complementary players like Berrios, who he seemed to love. And if Chris Herndon can step up at tight end, I think that Sam Darnold could be a very, very impactful quarterback. I think it could be a top 15 quarterback next year, top 15, and then going forward, I think he could keep progressing. So I'm switching my number 1. I want to keep Sam Darnold.
All right, let me just start off by this. It's a good thing that you're not like big on Jets Twitter, Jets Reddit, because you would be just getting crushed as a Sam truther. I know there's a big push against it. I see both sides of it. Definitely my last choice, but I do think there are some pros, and you brought up some good points, so I'm going to talk about those. One, it gives you.
Well, I brought up some bad points.
Yeah. I know. But it gives you a lot of draft flexibility, right? If you want to take that elite stud at the top of the draft, the Penei Sewell, the Jamar Chase, Devonta Smith, whoever it is, it gives you that option, but it also allows you to trade down and just collect a king's ransom for that second pick. For someone coming up for Wilson or Fields, you could trade down to 7 or 8, whatever it may be, and you could just load up for the future. Yeah.
I'll wait. Go ahead.
Yeah, no. So I think draft flexibility is a huge piece of it. Another thing is, like you said, like Sam was the number 3 overall pick for a reason. He has untapped potential still. The question is it too late? Like, did he lose his confidence? Has he been, ruined too much that there is no returning? But good teams are still sniffing around in the trade market for him. So that shows that there is still interest in Sam Darnold. And he's just had such a raw deal, worst, hand he could have had dealt to him with the whole Adam Gase thing. He's had a bunch of different coaches, no weapons. It has been difficult for him. But for me, the cons.
He's a kid too.
Yeah. I mean, I just think the cons outweigh the pros. You know what I mean? Like, one is the deal. Like you mentioned, he is cheap right now, but you need to exercise that 5th-year option. And I just don't know, like, if he's warranted that or like if there's too much uncertainty.
Also, like, if he goes and has a good year and then they sign him to a deal, probably not going to get that much money.
No, that is a good point. If he has the good year and you get him for a reasonable deal, then it's great. But I just think it makes sense with the rookie to reset that rookie QB clock.
I hate it.
I think that's the prudent choice. And I do think that's going to be a big reason why Douglas is going to take the quarterback, is to reset that clock. Another thing is, you have a change of regime right now. If this is the time to ever change a quarterback, it's right now to right your wrongs. Sam Darnold wasn't a Joe Douglas guy, so it's going to be a little easier to move on from him. Bring in the new QB with the new coach. Reset that clock, as I mentioned, and just get a fresh face. I feel like the only thing with Sam is if you go into next season with him, it's going to feel like that dark cloud still kind of looming over the Jets. It's the same old Jets where if you bring in the Wilson or the Fields, there's that energized new guy in the building. So I think that's a big thing. And it's just rare.
Now, you keep saying Wilson first. You want Wilson over Fields?
We'll get into that. I am extremely torn. I love both of them. I think they both have their pros and cons, just like we're mentioning. Sam has his pros and cons. And I think the last thing is, even think about how historically bad we were last year. We only got the second pick. Like, the second pick is rare to come by. And like, this is a chance to really fix this problem we have. Even
it's not that rare. It happens every year to some team.
I know. But I just think the thing with Sam, it's just too much of rolling the dice to keep him around. Like, I think we agree to disagree on this point. I mean, Joe Douglas's career rides on this decision. So think of it this way. If he keeps Sam and we suck next year, I mean, like, that's kind of the writing on the wall. Like, that's kind of it for Joe Douglas. Whereas I'm not saying he's going to get fired after next year, but it's going to be a horrible look. Whereas, if we go 5 and I think we're playing 17 games next year. So if we go 5-12 with Wilson and he looks great, like a rookie QB that's progressing, that same pressure is not going to be on Joe Douglas and Robert Saleh. So I think that's a big piece to take into account as well.
All right. I do want it to be known, if they do end up drafting, I am the ultimate Jets fan.
Yeah, no,
I will ride with whoever they do go with. But where are some potential landing spots for Sam?
All right. I think the number one is the Washington football team right near you. I know you're down in Maryland. It just makes sense, right? They're getting rid of
3 hours away.
Yeah, I know. I guess you're right. They're releasing Alex Smith, so he's gone. They did re-sign Taylor Heineke, but I don't see Heineke being the starter, and they're not really in a position to draft that QB. I think they're, in the late teens, maybe even early 20s. I think they're at 19 actually. So this is a high upside guy. They, like we mentioned, there is upside with Sam Darnold. They have a great defense. They have a solid running back. They need to add another wide receiver with Terry McLaurin, I think, but I think that's a great fit for him. Other than that, I think like potentially Chicago and San Francisco, but I think Washington is the clear favorite for me.
Okay. All right. So I guess let's talk to draft class. Can we just, Trey Lance isn't happening.
I don't want him now. So I'm not even going to talk about Trey Lance here or Mac Jones.
Cool. Cause I wasn't either. Mac Jones is going to be a Patriot.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's the realm.
I'm all right with that.
They might even need to come up to get him. A lot of people are saying top 10 for all 4 of those guys.
That's pretty crazy. So you got a good quarterback class.
Oh no, it'll be 5 of them. I've even seen Lance in the top 5.
All right. 10. So if it was up to me, I'm taking Fields over Wilson. Strictly body of work, right? I'm going strictly on competition played, pedigree. I don't think one of them is, you know what? Yeah, I do think Justin Fields is better. I don't think BYU plays the same schedule. What did he like? I watched him lose to Coastal Carolina. Justin Fields never would have lost to Coastal Carolina.
I agree with you to some extent, but you got to take into consideration the talent on their teams. You know what I mean? Fields is playing with 5 stars. BYU doesn't have the quality of players. So like
kind of like what I said about Sam Darnold and Mahomes.
I do agree with you. I think, you know, Fields does have that edge, but I'll let you continue on Fields.
You know, maybe I just don't know enough about Fields. I know you, I mean,
Wilson.
Wilson. You know, I've seen a ton of Justin Fields play. He throws a good ball. Watching him beat Clemson, like that was like, that night when he beat Clemson, I was like, good thing we're not getting Trevor Lawrence. Like, so I do like Fields. I would much, if we're going to go the draft route, give me Justin Fields. Not a fan of Wilson. I heard, I don't know much about his character, but I did hear he was kind of like a prima donna. I don't want to talk bad about something I don't know about, but I did hear he had like a little
character flaws, right?
Yeah. And I know, you know, Justin Fields, like you feel like you know him after you watch the QB1, everything he's done. Obviously I don't know him, but if I'm going draft, I'm going him. So I don't know if you have stats on these guys. How do their stats match up?
Yeah, so I have a little bit on both. So I guess I'll hit on Fields first, right? Because that's the guy that you would prefer. I was all in on Fields as my guy at 2 when it was like that around that Clemson game, right? No doubt, even into the championship. And then, you know, I started to just kind of like watch Zach Wilson, you know, his highlights. I'm not crunching tape, you know, I'm not a professional scout. Just watch him, and like there is something that is undeniably special about Zach Wilson, the plays he makes. It kind of feels like he's like floating on the field. Like, but with Justin Fields, going back to his strengths, 6'3", 228, he's listed at. So he's just durable. Like you saw, he did get banged up in those playoff games, but he fought through them and he won. He beat Clemson. He showed he was a warrior. He's physically, you know, a freak. He's a beast. But really, he's extremely accurate. You see his accuracy numbers from college are just through the roof. You know, he throws a great deep ball, and he can run the ball. He's gonna be in that 4.4 range. You know what I mean? Like somewhere in the 4.4s, which is unbelievable for a quarterback. So he adds that new school dual threat, you know, dimension that the Jets have lacked. Like Sam could run the ball a little bit, but nowhere near Justin Fields. The big knock on
the Broncos that.
I know, yeah, exactly. That was that like a 50-something yard touchdown.
49, I think.
But Justin Fields, the big knock on Justin Fields is that, you know, he doesn't progress through the defense, like his reads as well as other quarterbacks in the draft, specifically, you know, Zach Wilson, who's supposedly great at it. I don't know how to perfectly, you know, identify that, but from what I've read and what I've watched, Fields struggles a little bit with that. And then he holds onto the ball a little bit too long. So that gives me a little bit of like PTSD of like former.
What's his turnover situation?
So he's unbelievable, his turnover numbers, even though people question his decision-making. That's where I am confused. Like, how are you going to question a guy who in his career has thrown 67 touchdowns and 9 interceptions? He had that one year where he threw like 40 touchdowns and 3 picks, which is unbelievable. Last year he threw for 22 and 6. In his career, he's rushed for 19 touchdowns, 5 of them being last year. So you see that dual threat element. Just unbelievable stats, jumps off the page. I mean, his big knocks were what Herbert had. You know what I mean? Like he didn't go through his reads, but a lot of the times that's the system he was in, was Ohio State. Like I'm not buying into that. Oh, he's an Ohio State quarterback, he's going to be a bust. Each player is their own individual guy. Like he is so far beyond Dwayne Haskins coming out of college that I'm not worried about that. And I do think a lot of that decision, that reading the defense, that critique is really just Ohio State's receivers are so good that the first read is open. He doesn't need to make a second read. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
So, and that was a knock on Herbert. Herbert and that was wrong.
Hey,
you know what I mean?
If you could take anything away from Herbert, is a stud.
Exactly.
Like, so,
and I think the big thing is why I think I'm going to say I'm slightly leaning Fields is he edges out, you know, Wilson.
You're back.
I'm like 51-49 every single day, flip-flopping. I think where I'm at is people started to overanalyze the Deshaun Watson situation when he was coming out of Clemson. They were saying the same thing, like, oh, his reads aren't great, blah, blah, blah. And he slid to, I think, the 12th pick. And like, why did Deshaun Watson slide to the 12th pick? And my fear is one day when we look back at Justin Fields, we're going to say, why did the Jets let Justin Fields slip? Like, this was so obvious. He was a blue chip player at every level and lived up to the hype, whether it was the Elite 11 camps, high school, college, you know what I mean? And then I think he's going to be a great pro. So I am going to give the slight lean to Justin Fields, but you got to come back to me after the pro days and all that. But now on to Zach Wilson, who a lot of people, it feels like he's starting to gain a ton of hype in the media, but maybe
why though? Like, I don't get, like, why is he gaining so much hype? Like, he had a good year, yeah. Like, they beat Liberty to end the year. Like,
no, the thing with that, not Liberty, UCF, who is actually worse than Liberty. But this
did
is
they lose to Liberty?
No, they didn't play Liberty. Their only loss was Coastal. But the thing with him is, they say in the scouting world, in the draft world, you draft based on potential and traits, not production. So you see the production a little bit more with Justin Fields and more of those elite characteristics and traits in Zach Wilson's game. Not saying Fields doesn't have them. Obviously, he has all those physical traits, but they say Wilson just, reads defenses better. He throws at crazy arm slots, right? Like that side arm, 3/4, kind of like those Mahomes-esque throws. They list him at 6'3". I don't think he's actually 6'3". Last year, 33 passing touchdowns, 3 interceptions. I think he rushed for 10 touchdowns. Obviously, he played a lot more games than Justin Fields, but he was
the best
just
team they played.
It was Coastal. I mean, he did get them down to the 1 yard line, obviously. But look, the thing is with him,
but like there has to be a difference in reading like a top tier defense in college football compared to reading, like, no disrespect to Coastal, but like if Coastal's the best competition you're playing, like, think about the jump in ability that's going to happen between his final game in college to his first game in the NFL. The jump is going to be ridiculous. And I think taking him is just going to set us back more. And I know I'm getting a little bit like animated about this, but I don't want to do another 5 years when I think at this moment,
I think he's ready.
Sam Darnold gives us way more of a potential to win than Wilson does. I think Fields gives us more of a potential to win than Wilson does, but I think Sam Darnold ultimately gives us a better chance than both of them.
Yeah, but with Sam Darnold right now, I'm looking at best case scenario is like 9-8. And that's like for his, not his career, but like kind of for his career with the Jets. You know what I mean? Whereas like we might go 5-12 with Wilson this year, but I could see us winning a Super Bowl or going 13-4 down the line with Wilson. Dude, he's special.
Can't even beat the Coastal defense.
Dude, he had nobody. Like, he's playing with, like...
So did Sam for 3 years. Get him somebody.
But those are all NFL players. Like, obviously, he had a lack of weapons, but Sam was, let's face it, in college, what we saw his senior year, a lot of those interceptions, a lot of those bonehead plays, that's kind of what he carried over now. Like, that's kind of what Sam is right now. Not saying he can't get better or be great somewhere else. I just think it makes so much sense to move on. Like, I'm not going to mortgage the future over being a little bit better next year with Sam Darnold than one of these rookies. But my main concern, so Wilson, like we mentioned, I just think his tape is insane. Like, he just looks so special. He makes these huge plays. He looks like he's floating, like just playing at a different speed than everyone else. But his concerns are, like you said, the character flaws, but every single one of those has kind of been like disputed. They said basically he wasn't a captain, but if you look at his pictures, every game at BYU, he's got a C on his chest. So like, I don't know what that whole issue is. Rich Samini reported on that. Another thing is that he's like a spoiled rich kid, right? But like every single one of his coaches and teammates basically came to his defense saying like, this kid's a hard worker. He's humble. Like, all those things are wrong. So I'm not really worried about the character stuff. My main issue is the shoulder surgeries. He's torn his labrum in both shoulders. I
didn't even know that.
I think he tore his labrum in one of his arms and one of his shoulders, maybe in like high school, and then another one his sophomore year of college. So he's been fine like before his sophomore year. So he's been fine for 2 years, but like that definitely worries me a little bit. That's another reason why I'm going Fields over Wilson right now, but I'm still definitely going Wilson over Darnold.
I'm going Wilson. Out of here.
No, I think Wilson is going to be a special player. I think he's basically just a bigger Kyler Murray. That's the way I look at him.
All right. I'm going to go Sam 1, Deshaun 2, Fields 3, Wilson 4.
I'm going Watson at the right price.
I'd go Alex Smith before Wilson.
Okay, you're out of your mind. I'm going.
You're out of your gourd.
I'm going Watson at the right price. Like I said, I'm
yes,
willing to
obviously Watson at the right price.
I'm willing to overpay, but not just ruin our franchise. My number 2, I'm just such a toss up between Wilson and Fields. I'll put Fields there today. 3 is Wilson, 4 is Darnold, and that's it. Those are the only options, obviously. So,
All right, I'm Deshaun at the right price. Sam, Fields, Wilson.
All right, so there is some disagreement, but that's what makes it.
And I'm sorry I got a little animated there, but look, I'm going to war for my quarterback.
I'm okay with all of your takes because I could truly back you up on the fact that I know whoever is the quarterback on, September 12th or whenever the first game is, will have all of your support. So I'm not worried about your animated takes. Now I do know you will follow whoever our guy is then.
I just hope I don't have to eat my words, and I hope it's not Wilson because I genuinely don't want him as my quarterback. But come September 12th, if he is, I love you.
Yeah, no, I get that. I'm good with all 4, but I'm not gonna lie. I will be disappointed if Sam is our quarterback.
What if they beef everything up around him?
I think it'll be fine. I don't think it's worth the very small uptick you might get if you keep Sam versus one of these rookies.
I think the
future is so much more important.
I feel like Sam right now is a verbal meme, the meme of the Mets general manager. You gotta give us a shot.
Yeah, oh yeah, of Terry Collins.
Terry Collins, you get arrested in the jackpot. You gotta give us a shot.
I know, but also if you see every quarterback that's put up the stats Sam has put up through 3 years, they just don't bounce back regardless of the situation. I'm hoping
Sam's going to be a quarterback in this league if it's not for the Jets.
Yeah,
and he is going to go if we get rid of him
like this.
If we get rid of him, he's going to be good somewhere else.
And I really hope so, but he can't keep playing like he has been. So I'm hoping he goes to a team with a good situation. I think Washington's a good situation. I think Chicago is, and I do think San Francisco is. So any of those 3 spots,
the New York Jets are, Sam.
Man, I think people are just going to be smashing that unsubscribe button when they hear these takes.
No one subscribes. Maybe they'll subscribe first, and then unsubscribe.
No, so we'll see. I mean, I think this is going to be a really fun, couple months for us, regardless of what happens. Just wondering what's going on. Especially for me, I love this stuff.
Couple hot takes there tonight, and I guess we will see in due time if any of them come true. If I would assume one of the 4 is going to come true.
Yeah, so if Wilson becomes the superstar Super Bowl champ of the Jets, we'll have this video to look back on. And if Sam Darnold leads us into a decade
if he does that,
I'll have my takes too. So
I'll get if Wilson leads us to, I will get his face tattooed on my body if he wins a Super Bowl for the Jets.
All right, I'll make sure to keep this in the archives for a couple of years from now.
I already got an airplane on there. So.
Yeah.
All right, guys, have a great. Whatever you're doing, we'll talk to you next week. Go Jets.